Hey everybody, it's Seth with Mid-South Overland. Welcome back to the channel. I know it's been a while since I've posted, but we've been kind of on a summer hiatus. It's been too warm for us to go and go camping this time of the year in the South. But I appreciate you tuning back in. We're gonna get into this review of the Harbor Freight air compressor that I've had for the last 2 years. So, first off, like I said, I bought this air compressor 2 years ago. It's the Pittsburgh 12 volt, 150 PSI, high voltage air compressor. I got it for about $70, and for the price, I would say that it's been pretty good for the most part. It's powered by these 2-hour alligator clips right here. You hook them up to your battery terminals. You've got your air hose that exits right here, which you plug in through the quick connect to the rest of your air hose. It's got this air gauge here, and then it's got the screw end right here that just screws right onto your valve stem. Here's the bag that it comes in. It's got these 2 buckles right here, as well as the zippers. This is where you put your air compressor, and then this is where you put your hose and accessories, or an owner's manual, or whatever, everything that comes with it. I've always stored it in the bag. It's been in the deck system, like you've already seen. Here's a little pouch right here that holds the accessories that it comes with. It's got these 2 little black plastic rubber type ends that you could, blow some dust off of something, I guess. And you've got this little needle right here that you could use to air up like a basketball or a football or whatever. I've never used any of the accessories. This has been solely for the purpose of just airing tires up on trips, and then also at home for different reasons. It also comes with this little owner's manual and safety instructions that you can see by the way that it's folded, that it doesn't get much use. Probably should have just used this as a fire starter. Wish I'd known that it was, or remembered that it was still in there. Probably would have used it for that at some point. But anyways, that's the overview of it, just to get started. We'll start with the positives though. When I bought this air compressor, the goal was to get a cheap air compressor that would safely air my tires up to get me back out of the woods from wherever we were for a low price. And it did that job. It did. I can't complain about it there. Like I said, I paid $70 for it at Harbor Freight. When we were initially getting into overlanding, I didn't want to spend a whole lot of money because I wasn't sure if I would stay with it, if my wife would enjoy it, because if she didn't enjoy it, then I wouldn't be doing it as often. But it served its purpose there. I always said that if it ever disappointed me in any way or stopped working, that I would then upgrade if I needed to. But yeah, I've aired up 33-inch tires, 34-inch tires, 35s, different car tires, and it's done all of it. It's been all the way across the country with me and back. It's only let me down a handful of times, and there's a couple reasons for that, which I guess will lead us into the negatives. First off, this air compressor gets hot. Now, other air compressors get hot as well. That's kind of a common thing. They just get hot when you use them. That's fine. This one gets very hot though. And when I mean very hot, I mean it gets to the point to where it melts its own fuse. Not just pop the fuse because it's under too much load or whatever, but it melts it. It melts not only just the metal part, but also the plastic surrounding the casing around the fuse itself, to where it'll get to a point to where on the face over here, where the fuse goes in, there'll just be this bubbly plastic mess with 2 little shards of metal in it that are just kind of spilling out of it when it gets very hot. Now, the first time I had this issue was early last spring, or maybe late last spring. The sun was beating down on it, it was hot outside. It was about 85 degrees. The engine was running. I set this in my engine bay when I use it, and it was running all at the same time. It popped that first fuse and melted it. I didn't blame the air compressor for that. I just assumed that it was just very hot, you know, and it was running. So couldn't blame it for that. Luckily, the little accessory kit came with a replacement fuse, so I just put the new fuse in, waited a few minutes for it to cool down, started working again. No problems after that for a while. Well, then that problem occurred a couple more times on a couple more weekend trips that we do. And one time it was late fall. It was probably about 50 degrees or so. And the fuse popped, it got hot. Same story. Put a new fuse in, started working again. I just thought it was odd that it happened when it was still so cold outside and I was still just airing my tires up the same way that I always had. But now this issue has been, you know, rising up for whatever reason. That's happened a handful of times. I just got to where I just kept a few fuses in here. You know, no big deal. Just added another 30 minutes, you know, to us getting out of the woods and driving home. Not a huge deal, just a minor inconvenience. It didn't become a big problem for me until the Moab trip that we did late this spring. So we were out there riding, having a great time. The second time that I aired up the tires, it was late. It was probably about 8 o'clock at night. You know, when the sun goes down out there, it cools down a bit. It was probably 70 degrees, maybe 75. So not hot. It wasn't in the sun or anything. Tried airing out my tires like normal. Popped the fuse just after finishing the first tire. And I just started using somebody else's air compressor for the rest of the trip, and that was fine. But it did let me down at that point because we were on a big trip. I was using it under all the right circumstances. There was no reason why it should have done that to me. That really disappointed me. But I was still going to give it a little bit more of a shot because I didn't want to quite commit to buying a whole nother one just because of that one experience that really disappointed me. So then we had our last trip that we've done this year so far. It was at the beginning of the summer. We always do a kayak trip where we overland, do some kayaking, chase waterfalls, all that stuff. But at the end of that trip, I was airing my tires up, and about halfway through the first one, it blew the fuse. Same thing, I pulled the fuse out, put a new one in. I waited about 30 minutes to try to let it cool down, but after that it wouldn't start back up again. Now, on this day, the sun was beating down on us. It was probably 85 degrees, just like the first time this had happened to me. You know, the engine was running to keep the battery charged and everything while I was powering this. This was running, it was very hot. But I put the new fuse in, waited 30 minutes, and then after that, it wouldn't turn on again. So yet again, I had to use somebody else's compressor to air my tires up so I could get home safely. That was kind of the last straw for me. Since it had failed me 2 trips in a row, I just decided it's time for something new. Now, I haven't needed a compressor again for overlanding purpose, at least in the last 2 months or so, so I haven't bought another one yet. But I'm in the market for one now, especially because I still have not gotten this one to power back up, and I don't feel like digging through it because I'm just done with it at this point. So I'm gonna ask you guys, what are your suggestions for an air compressor for me? There's basically 2 criteria for me for an air compressor. First off, I want it to be about the same size. I like how it fits in this bag and slides right into my deck system where it needs to go. It fits very securely in there. I want it to be about the same size so it can do that. Or maybe even a little bit smaller, that's fine. Also, I want it to be a standalone unit that's not attached to the truck itself. because like I said, I want to put it in my deck system, and the reason for that is because I want to be able to take this out of my truck and put it in my wife's vehicle if we're going on vacation or something, because I have done that in the past. Just in case we get a nail in the tire or something, I can, use this to air it back up on the side of the road. Not, wouldn't be a big deal. Also want to be able to, let friends use it if they need to as well. So those are my 2 criteria. If you have any suggestions or ideas, leave it in the comments below. I'd much appreciate it. But to wrap everything up, I still would recommend this air compressor to somebody that's getting started out in overlanding, or just somebody that just needs one, in their vehicle just in case, or if they tend to have flats because they live in a construction area that has a lot of construction or something. I would still do it. I'd still buy it, because for the first year it was fine, and for $70 it's cheap insurance just if you needed it for that. But also if you're just getting into it, you don't want to make the big commitment like we didn't want to, just in case you don't stick with it. All you spend is $70 and you have a compressor, and that's great. Also, if you have a low budget, $35 a year for having a compressor, it's not a bad deal. Not a bad deal. Now, I do think the price has gone up a little bit. I want to say I saw them for $70 or so, but Harbor Freight's always having deals and everything. You can get their little emails or whatever. I'm sure you could get this for about the same that I paid for it even today. You just might have to catch it at the right time. But yeah, overall, those are my thoughts on the Harbor Freight air compressor. Let me know what you guys think, if you've had this, what your experiences have been. And also just for people to look in the comments, just to kind of get a consensus on what other people have experienced with these. But yeah, I hope that this may have helped somebody out making their decision and buying this, or maybe not. But yeah, I also hope that you guys can help me make my decision. I'm looking at a couple different options. I'm not gonna say them, but yeah, just let me know what you guys think, and I appreciate you watching. All right, also real quick before I end the video, I've got some new stickers. I posted about them on my Instagram recently. If any of you want one, just DM me on Instagram. We can work out the details from there. I can ship them, or if I see you on the trail, I'll give you one. Or if you ever come on a trip with me, I'll give you one as well. So yeah, just let me know if you want any.